Why would a person want to unfocus their eyes? I mean, so this is a funny one. I've run into this a number of times, and so it's interesting what it is. It's like when you have your perception, you have the ability to focus on, say, like a single object, right? Where you can focus your attention on a single point, on a like that cat. Is very focused on something on the ground. Sometimes it's a twist tie. Anyways, so like you can focus on one thing, you can direct your attention towards a single object, right? And that has its usefulness, but there's also this ability that we have to essentially uh, widen the focus and take it all in. For myself, it sometimes involves relaxing my eyes, like like sort of in the way that I'm doing right now, and just really absorbing. It's like I'm absorbing a more broad amount of everything that's there. I'm not really looking at anything in particular, and I'm just essentially taking it all in. And so this is something that is practiced in a number of forms. I mean, I teach people to drive sometimes when it's appropriate, because I like doing it. And if there's somebody who needs to learn how to drive, I like to be of service, because there's a lot of things that say certain, like, say, drivers driving schools or driving whatever, people think things that aren't, that that people aren't learning, right? And so I try to tell people how to drive so that they'll drive safely on the road. It's like when you get on the on ramp, floor it, not, like within reason, but go. It's an acceleration ramp. You don't slowly creep up and then be all worried about getting in. Get in. You have to go. It's an acceleration ramp. It's not, you can create accidents if you pull out in front of somebody. Yeah, I've seen people get rear-ended in this way. Or there's a few things that it's like, do this. This is how you drive. This is how it's done. And one of the things, it's like, so when you're driving on the road, you can't just be like, looking all over, focusing. There's something that I do sometimes where it's like you essentially take it all in. You're going along, but you're just aware of everything. You take everything in simultaneously. You're aware of your surroundings, and this is how you stay safe. And that's why it's important to not have to, like, the music crank too loud, because you need to be aware of the noises, and you need to be paying attention to the other vehicles, to the gas, not the gas, to your instrument panel and all this kind of stuff. I mean, there's a lot of things. So it helps to be able to relax and take it in. I mean, another thing that this is, another way that, so it kind of, the straw that broke the camel's back with me making this video was to do with, so I'm working with my buddy, very rarely now, but like, because I used to set tile with this guy, and I needed a day of work, right? And so we do what's called subway tile. It was in a restaurant, and it's in a bathroom. And subway tiles are like a small tile, say like any small kind of square rectangular tile that go, they go in kitchens and bathrooms. They're just little tiles, right? I mean, anyways, and so we're doing these, and the thing is, it's like, because there's so many of them in such a small space, and it's like a wall of these things, you can't, and they're not perfect either. Some of these things, when they're made, it's not like they're perfectly straight and all the same dimensions. They're all over the place. And so you can't try to get one perfect. You have to have a system that allows you to work with the material and get it on the wall fast enough before the glue dries, and without getting all caught up in trying to get everyone perfect, because they're not going to be perfect. What you need to do is essentially get an overall. You have to have a method which makes sure that they're evenly spaced, but they also need to, and then you need to get progress. So you need to get it done without getting carried away with trying to get something perfect, because nothing is perfect, and you can't let it go off, because if you try to move in the wrong direction, then it just you'll end up with a huge gap here. Then you have to move everything over. It's very time consuming. So you need to have a technique that helps you to do the job properly, right? And so one of these things is, it's the same thing where you just kind of, if you're doing a section, you start on the outside and you work your way in, and you get a feel for it, and then you just kind of put them in. You feel for it. It's not like you're not looking, you're feeling. And then you're just like, no. This is measured, this is right, it will work in this space, and then you go do, and you just kind of relax your eyes, and then you move, you even them out, and then you just kind of come back and you look at it, and then you just see the shadows and stuff like that, and then that's enough. And then you walk away, because at the end of the day, it's going to get grout in it, and it's not a piano, as we say in construction. You cannot spend all day. It's not a make work project, right? It's not you're not making a career out of it. You're getting the job done and moving on. It doesn't matter. It's not important. It does have to be up to a certain standard, but you have to not get too carried away with it, or else you're not making any money, or you're costing money, or you're this or that, right? Whatever. Job's got to get done, get it done. So there's that. Another one is to do with, I remember back in the day, there was this store in the mall, in Cottonwood Mall here in Chilliwack, and it was called San Francisco. And you would go in there, and it was the best store for kids, hands down. It had everything in there, from whoopee cushions to fart bombs to swearing machines. F you, you're an a-hole, right? It was just, as a kid, that was the best. All these silly little things, little toys, and things that were just fun. I do not understand how this business went out of business, because kids didn't stop being kids. So how on earth did this place go out of business? I don't know. San Francisco, come back, right? And so anyways, it was like a dollar store, but just for kids, right? Only, not kids, but awesome, cool things. And in that place, they had these things. I remember back in the day, we're probably talking 90s. It could have been late 80s, but because I was born in 81, so it's I basically grew up in the 90s, so gangster rap and kind of stuff, right? But there were these things, and it was like an illusion art, and you would have to stare at it until you almost went cross-eyed, and then a 3D image would pop out at you. Right? And I always think, I bet you that's along the same lines. It's you need to be able to relax your gaze to the point where you're able to intake a wider scope of what is available, say patterns within patterns, for what it's worth. And so there was those things. And so another reason why this has come to my attention is because I recently just got through, what's it called? It's called Light on Life by BKS Iyengar. It's a book about yoga, and it is profound. That man, awesome, just awesome. And highly recommend this book if you're into understanding how your mind works and stuff like that. But just beautiful, beautiful piece of work. And it's talking about how it's read too by this woman, really nice voice. I mean, it's a huge part for me is the voice of the person who's reading the book. And so, yeah, beautiful to have that feminine presence in there with like a book that was written by this dude, right? And like he talks about how when you're practicing yoga, where your focus is, drishti, I think is the word, right? And it's like if you're doing it, that's a part of it. Say you're doing something, you're looking up, you can look at your hand or like some point or a thing, but you can also do this thing where he's talking about the benefit of so when you're focusing on a single object, you're essentially you're only tapping into one level of what is available, and there's so much more. So it's like if you can adopt this form of vision, which is similar as he describes it to when you walk into a cathedral and what you see when you're like, because there's a lot, some of these places are, say, expansive. You go in there and it's a lot to take in. And so that's what you do. You kind of, whoa, right? And so like when the idea is that when you're practicing yoga, that instead of focusing on a single point, you unfocus and you still, I suppose, look in a certain direction, because that's a part of what the pose, a part of the pose is to say like to be in certain positions. But when you open yourself up to this unfocused way of observing, you're not only tapping into the physical element, you're also tapping into like an emotional and an energetic and in level, and like a level of intelligence, like these different elements, these aspects of who we are that are a part of our makeup, and we can then use these poses as an experience, as a way to tap into something so above and beyond what it looks like on the surface. You're doing like spiritual work by being able to embrace these practices with your other bodies, I suppose, right? And so very interesting. I really like that. I mean, another one is like, I had to write these down because there's a number of them. It's something that I do when I'm working on things that to me are profound. I mean, say like writing my book, or like researching about yoga or whatever it is, and it's a lot of it can be heady, because it's like I'm wrapping my mind around certain things, like I'm really digging deep, I'm really engaging myself, tapping into some of this stuff, and then it's like, okay, I need to take a break from that stuff. And so I take frequent breaks, especially when I'm in like a research phase. And so what I do, and I do this also sometimes in the morning, so I'll stop and I'll just lie in my bed and I'll stare out the window and I'll just look at a tree and like not think, I'm not noticing things. I'm not observing anything. I'm not doing anything. I'm kind of just, detaching from it all and just allowing myself to to let go and just to be, instead of always becoming, instead of taking it a step further, instead of going beyond. It's just to take it in, and just it's how I digest certain things. I used to do that unconsciously, where I would require sleep after an intake of heavy material, say like Hermetic philosophy or something like that. The first time I read the Kabbalion, I could handle like a page at a time, and I just have to be like, oh my God, and just put it down and be like, yeah, I can't right now. I need time with this, even though it's like beautiful and profound and very well, is so well written. It's very easy to understand. It's just because you're upgrading your consciousness in a sense. I don't know if that, you know what I mean though, right? And so I do that. And I do it sometimes in the morning too, before getting out of bed. I stop forcing myself to get up out of bed. It's like, no, I'm gonna take my time. I usually wake up, depending, it's all relative to when I go to sleep, but sometimes I wake up at midnight. Sometimes I wake up at 2 o'clock in the morning, sometimes 3, but it's pretty, in general, it's within that range. And instead of like say, okay, get up and wake yourself up and splash some water on your face, or do some yoga, wake your body up, I don't drink coffee anymore. Well, I do very rarely, but I don't, I have my reasons, because it makes me eject my digestive system, and I eat such good food. I refuse to just waste money in that way, but I will enjoy a coffee when it is appropriate. There's a time and place for everything, and coffee is one of those things in my life, and I like it. And so, I, as a part of my morning ritual, I'll turn some lights on really low. I got everything on a dimmer, and they're all incandescent bulbs, so no harsh lights, no unnatural frequencies kind of deal. Everything just very and then I just lie there, like with my eyes open, and like, kind of, sometimes I think about my dreams, whether it's like, sometimes I might still be wrapped up in the day before. You never know, right? Or maybe it's about what I need to do that day, or maybe nothing at all. I give myself that time. That's my time. That's my sacred time. That's my time for me, because a lot of the other stuff that I do, it's not just for me. Like making music is to share. Writing a book is to share. All this yoga teacher, I need to share. It's all about that. But that's me time. And I find a lot of value in really honoring my own quiet time, and my recognizing my requirement to have that time, and how important it is to not talk, to not be around people who are talking, and to not talk, and to not engage, and to not get involved, and to just step back and do nothing, absolutely nothing. And that helps me in everything else that I do, because I've taken that time to respect my need, because like I have a strong introverted presence within my energetic makeup. I require an amount of time alone, but it's still like, I'd say I'm more balanced, because it's not that I don't like company. It's just that most of the time there's nobody around who I enjoy their company, and who understand things like honoring special time of silence at certain times of the day, and how important it is to respect certain things, like, and it's tough. Say, like, living here, cohabitation is challenging. I've had to find my way with it, and that's tricky too, because as Jiddu Krishnamurti said, it's no measure of good health to be well adjusted to sickness. You're living in a place where there's all these different energies, and you might recognize some of what's going on as things that don't resonate with you, that you don't appreciate, but at the same time, you don't bite the hand that feeds you, and you don't poop where you sleep. I mean, we have to exist. We need to coexist, right? So you have to find it within yourself, a way to be you. Is something that Mother Ayahuasca told me, is to respecting others' energy whilst simultaneously respecting my own. And sometimes that requires techniques. Sometimes I find myself with people where it's just like they have repeatedly demonstrated to me that they are dealing with some negativity. There's no judgment, right? I mean, but the kind of conversations, the things that these people say, it's just like, So I've developed a what I call a do not engage policy, because you play with fire, you will get burned. Some people are burning with anger or with depression or whatever it is, whatever fire is burning in them. It's like, be careful not to play with it, because you don't want to get burned. And it's like, I've got burned by some people so many times, but sometimes it's not a choice to be able to completely avoid this certain people. You have to coexist. And so you need to learn how to, so it's something awesome. I mean, I watched this UFC recently, and they were talking about Roadhouse, and I watched a new movie, didn't like it. But I watched the old movie, classic, so good. I had seen it before, I think, but because there was but awesome. And it's something that Patrick Swayze says in it. He's this bouncer, and he teaches other bouncers how to handle stuff. And it's like, you just always have to be nice. Like, somebody calls you a blank, it's literally sounds that they make with their noise, a noise that they make with their mouth. Like, you get to choose how you're going to react to the things. It's like, you're getting paid to not react. You're getting paid to not to help keep an environment safe for people who want to go to a place and enjoy it. It's like, if somebody says something, just be nice. Don't say anything. You don't have to say anything, right? And so I've learned that in life, is just to, like, with some people, it's just like, do not enter into a conversation about anything with them, because you know what kind of people they are. Marcus Aurelius actually talks about this in his book Meditations. It's like, don't think that you're going to approach somebody who has proven themselves repeatedly to be illogical, to not be using logic, right? To not be using common sense, to not be nice, to not be friendly, to people who are hostile, people who are manipulative, who are, passive aggressive, all these kinds of behaviors that can be very challenging to pinpoint and to navigate in certain relationships. And just to see beyond that kind of stuff. But the point is that he says, don't think that you're gonna enter into a conversation with somebody who is irrational and then use logic, and then they're gonna be like, oh, you're right, thank you for pointing that out, that's great, that's really helpful, and thank you for showing me how everything that I was saying was completely out to lunch, how I'm actually being really mean and rude. Like, it's never going to happen. It is a folly to think that you're going to do that you're going to have that, that impact on somebody who is clearly not operating on that kind of a level where they're open to receiving constructive words. I don't even want to say criticism, because it's not like, just like open to ideas. And then they'll be like, when you're in one of those healthy relationships with people. So yeah, I know that it moved a little bit off topic, but I mean, that was, I felt like sharing that stuff anyway. So, the only other piece is that I know that I have this experience of taking it all in. I have a big, for myself, and I know a lot of other people, a reverence for nature. So when I go into nature, I feel the same way. That's why I honestly like living in a vehicle. Right now, I appreciate living in a vehicle more than I do living in a house, because in here you're in this little environment where everything is controlled, and you have all of these things and it's just like I feel disconnected from, I don't know, if like the world at large, from the other animals, like from the elements. I like it when it gets hot and cold, and where I'm not in control of everything, where I'm not, aware of everything. Everything's all safe and not safe. I mean, safety is important, right? There's no doubt about that. But yeah, it's so nice to be out in the elements with the other animals. I find that they look at you differently when you're one of those who are out there with them, figuring it out, so yeah, being out in nature, and yeah, two ways of looking at things. I mean, I'm not, I'm not saying there's anything wrong with living in a house. I'm just saying, because of my time and living in a vehicle, it's so nice to wake up and be at the ocean, be wherever you want. You change your scenery, and you can be in places that are awe-inspiring by choice at any time. Be like, this isn't awe-inspiring. I'm going to go somewhere where it is, or somewhere that's quieter, somewhere where I don't have to, when I don't have to compromise. I can go somewhere that's very peaceful, and this fills my heart full of joy, being here next to this, babbling brook kind of deal, and hearing the wind in the trees, or like the ocean crashing up on the thing, like just because I don't have $1 million and I can't afford a oceanside villa or whatever. It's like I'm still here, and this is good enough. So yeah, I mean, yeah, different ways of looking at things, right? I mean, and so the last element, I have it on here. It's just that, like, something tells me that this way of looking at things, in like taking it in, as opposed to the focus on a single thing, whereas, like, as I understand it, because it's like the mind, which has, for what it's worth, is more of a masculine, like divine masculine, element to it, where it's about focusing, it's about details, it's about calculation, it's about like things along those lines anyways. I mean, as part of its faculty, it falls under its jurisdiction, whereas taking it in, kind of like not that way, the unfocused way of perception is. So I would use these exact same examples to describe how the intuition works. Whereas for myself, the way that I understand this system is that this form of perception is a focused form, whereas the intuition, which, as we know, females in general are stronger in, they are more connected to their intuitive faculties. Men a bit more up here. And so women more emotional, more feeling. Men more logic, more details, stuff like that. Of course, there's different men and women, right? And all that kind of stuff. And the way to understand how to work with, a lot of us know how to work with this because it's kind of what we're taught. But to work with the intuition, to work with this unfocused form of perception, is that the way that it presents itself to your awareness, because it's an unfocused form of perception, but something which is tapping the infinite. The thing is, the mind can only calculate using the elements, the factors that it's aware of. So it's really a very limited form of perception. It is very useful for sorting out certain things, but can also be very detrimental to try to work with it beyond what its capacity is, what it's sort of essentially designed for. And that's why listening to the intuition is so powerful. I won't say more, because you can't deny intellect. It's huge, right? I mean, all mind, you don't even think you're gonna like make it out like one is more important than the other. That is so foolish. Of course the heart as well, but that's right. But so like the way that the intuition presents itself is through an unfocused, so it is just black and white, yes and no. And so that's why when you're faced with something, it is immediately, there is no calculation, because we're tapping into something that is vast. We're tapping into another level of intelligence of who we are, higher self kind of deal. And so it just says yes and no. And if you get that answer, listen to it. I have learned to develop a relationship with my intuition over the years, and it has never led me wrong. I mean, and sometimes you don't understand why you feel the way that you do about something, but it's like, if something doesn't feel right, stop. It's just like, oh, with this, no, yes, whatever it is, oh, my intuition. And then you can then use your mind to figure out some of the details afterwards. But you don't start here. You start here if it's necessary. Some things it's not so crucial for you to tap into these other elements. Sometimes it is. Like, you don't even know, right? I mean, because I have a pretty intimate relationship with mine now. I am able to tap into these things, and it's funny, the things that they tell me now. Like, I now receive guidance from other levels on the smallest of things, even to do with when I'm doing work, when I'm putting in floors. I receive guidance about whether or not I did something right, and it's always right. And when I question it, I always learn that it's like, I should have just trusted my gut intuition. It told me, and then I just like figured that I would second guess my intuition. And it's funny, right? But that's part of the process, is going through that process and not beating yourself up about it. Be like, okay, well, how many times do I need to repeat this process before I learn to trust this thing that I have, my intuition? And so, yeah, it says yes or no. Is it okay to do this? No, that is not okay. I don't even need to think about it. Some things it's just blatantly obvious. But yeah, I mean, and see, now I touched on it. I mean, the heart, it's another thing that I've gotten very intimate with over the years. And it is what I understand to be the ternary nervous system. There is your central nervous system, which is comprised of your brain and your spinal cord. And then there is your enteric nervous system, which is your stomach and your intestines and stuff like that. It's where a lot of the body's, it's all kinds of neurotransmitters, dopamine, all that kind of stuff. It's in your intestines and things like that, and organs or whatever, things that excrete them. I mean, anyways, that kind of idea. But then the heart, it's connected via some nerve. I don't know if it's the vagus nerve or whatever, but yeah, to your heart, the vegan nerve. I mean, the nerve of some vegans. Yeah. Anyways, yeah, and these things all work together. It's important to be in touch with this system, because that is how, for myself, I have a balanced perception of what I experience in life, following my heart and listening to my intuition, and figuring things out with my mind. I love using my mind. I love it. I love unraveling mysteries. I love figuring things out. I love doing it, right? It's awesome. It's all three. So that is it. You're welcome.